And here with me now on our Cleveland set, CBSN political contributor Rick Davis, also John McCain's campaign manager in 2008. And we have Mark Leibovich, the chief national correspondent for New York Times Magazine. We have, before we look at a day two today, one bit of business to discuss, and that is a burgeoning controversy this morning, if only for the evolution of the campaign's response now to charges of plagiarism in Melania Trump's speech last night. It certainly seems as though a paragraph may have been lifted whole hog from a speech given by Michelle Obama at the Democratic Convention back in 2008. So, Mark, I ask you, as the Trump campaign evolves their response to now say, essentially, that this may be, in fact, Hillary Clinton's fault, what to make of the political impact of this controversy?
Well, I mean, I think in a different world, in maybe a world that doesn't exist in the Donald Trump universe, this would be one of those deeply shameful, embarrassing episodes that could linger. I mean, Joe Biden's career almost ended over a plagiarism rap in 1988. Now we're talking about, what is the burgeoning controversy before 10 o'clock the next morning? And who knows what we'll be talking about at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Mm-hmm. So in a way, this is sort of part of the blur that we now exist under. Having said that, I mean, the video, the side-by-side video is pretty damning. It makes the kind of finessing or attempted finessing of this by the campaign pretty comical. I don't know why they just don't say, yeah, she messed up, the speechwriter, didn't attribute properly, we're sorry, and I think people would pretty much forgive.
Look, 8 years ago, Rick, would a head have rolled if this had happened to John McCain? What does this say about the Trump campaign and the state of it, especially given what we saw last night? It was not the only issue that we saw after day one.
Yeah, look, I mean, day one was full of all kinds of good things and bad things, mm-hmm. right? And so they're sort of airing it out. I think Mark's point, where I think he was getting to was it's sort of not the crime, but the cover-up, yeah. right? I mean, right. So people can excuse the fact that Donald Trump's wife, for the first time in a major public speaking opportunity in her life, delivered a really great speech, and the speech was cribbed from another speech by another woman who did a really great job in 2008, right. standing up for her husband. So I think that all could have been very easily managed. The fact that the Trump campaign, in sort of their whole history of never saying they ever did anything wrong or never apologizing for any misstatement or misrepresentation of fact, they just won't let it go, right? And it's like, let it go. It's not material to the future campaign, so right. move on. And quit trying to explain it away or blame it on somebody else or some third party like Hillary Clinton, who, Hillary sort of, all of a sudden she's in our hall. I mean, like, how'd she get here? Right. Get her out of here. This is our convention. So, I mean, I think that this thing is just, it's the classic cover-up, right? And just leave it. Move on. You got a whole big day ahead of you. That's what the focus ought to be. Who would have thought we'd woken up and Michelle Obama would have had this great singing along with James Corden in the car and be the star of the Republican convention? I mean, she's having a great day. I mean, how did that happen?
At the Republican convention.
Right.
Mark, what might they learn, the campaign, heading into day two? Last night, the theme was security, national security. It's said to be the economy today, but last night, just from a purely scheduling perspective, Joni Ernst, one of the few sitting senators who agreed to appear and speak here, one of the few, perhaps, who will speak here with legitimate aspirations to higher office, was delivering a speech to chairs. It was roughly as populated as it is now. How might that inform what we'll see tonight?
Well, I mean, this is not exactly a campaign that seems to reflect and adjust, especially on the fly. I mean, I don't know how this is going to work then. I mean, I think the speakers tonight, Chris Christie, mm-hmm. Paul Ryan, are people who know how to watch a clock, who know how to sort of stay, on message, and also sort of are aware of what the visuals might be. So it might go a little bit better. But no, I mean, I think this is being made up on the fly. I think by the book, that was probably a fiasco-filled sort of scheduling thing last night. But again, who's to say that's going to be punished by Trump voters and even the people who find Trump appealing, who might consider him a refreshing sort of breath of fresh air from the normal politics. But having said that, I mean, again, and Melania Trump, I mean, I went to bed last night thinking that she had given a very well-received speech. I mean, I thought she came across as very sympathetic, you know, a little nervous, but and now this, which, again, you can sort of pin on a staff person, but, again, it's not really in their DNA to apologize.
We do have, as he mentioned, House Speaker Paul Ryan and Chris Christie speaking later. Paul Ryan, whose endorsement of Donald Trump has been tepid at best. He has certainly not been shy to criticize at least the messages of the presumptive GOP nominee, at least for another 24 hours or so. What do you then expect to hear from Ryan tonight?
Yeah, I think both these guys are going to be on their own, right? I think that Ryan has a message to deliver to people about the Republican Party exclusive of Donald Trump, right? And I'm sure he will pay due respect, but I can't imagine any more than that. It wouldn't be the first speech ever to be given at a Republican convention where the nominee himself is not highlighted in the speech. Many people actually remember Chris Christie's speech from Tampa when Mitt Romney was nominated. And I think the only time he actually said Mitt Romney's name was when he said, you know, hello, Mitt Romney. I mean, that was about it. And so I suspect he'll do a little bit more tonight for Donald Trump, who's sort of his running buddy on this campaign. But, yeah, these guys, I think that part of what you'll see, especially from the senior members of the establishment, is an articulation of their vision of what our party means to America and sort of get a word in edgewise while the rest of this convention is Trump all the time.
I'm going to get you guys out of here on this one, but Mark, very quickly, from Chris Christie, is he going to be essentially a Rudy Giuliani part 2 tonight?
He might be. I mean, that's what he's suited for. I mean, but he's clearly in a somewhat aggrieved place. I mean, he's been fairly vocal, or, I mean, secondhand. I mean, you don't have to read the tea leaves too carefully to see that he really wanted to be the running mate. Yeah. He thought it was, I wouldn't say it was owed to him, but he thought that he should have been asked. He doesn't look to be in a good mood. I mean, he in a different kind of not good mood that Chris Christie usually is. I don't think he will go off script by any stretch, but you sort of wonder if his heart's in it and whether that will sort of be conveyed. And, you know, it's one of the many parallel universes at work here. I mean, Paul Ryan, like as Rick said, is sort of speaking to a different constituency. I mean, he has a future as a presidential candidate, perhaps. He wants to be the ideas person. He seems to think that his words can coexist pretty independently of the rest of the convention. And, you know, we'll see if that's going to be effective. So.
Rick, you're here with us all week. We appreciate that. Mark Leibovich.
My pleasure.
Thank you for stopping by this morning.
Good to be here.
Do appreciate it.
Sure.